Whether I could remember the rest of the poem or not was immaterial. The truth of the statement was like a handkerchief, soaking wet in my fist, and the sooner they accepted it, the sooner I could let my hands open, and the air would cool my palms. Maya Angelou and her older brother Bailey Johnson were sent by their mother to live with their strict, church-going grandmother in a small southern town. Maya feels the hatred of the South's bitter racist and the strong grip prejudice has on her life as a young black girl. Through her struggle with her own identity, she's able to say, "I know why the caged bird sings," by Maya Angelou. The dress I wore was lavender taffeta, and each time I breathed, it rustled. But now that I was sucking in air to breathe out shame, it sounded like crepe paper on the back of purses. I had watched Mama put ruffles along the hem and cute little tucks on the waist. I knew that once I put it on, I'd look just like a movie star. It was silk, and I figured that made up for the awful color. I was going to look like one of the sweet little white girls who everyone to dream of what was right with the world. People were going to see me wearing it, and they were going to run right up to me and say, "Marguerite, please forgive us, we didn't know who you were." And I would answer generously, "Oh, no, of course you could have known. I forgive you." Just thinking about it made me go around with angels dust sprinkled over my face for days, but then Mama finished the dress, and it was revealed that it was a plain, ugly cut down from a white woman's once was purple throwaway. And it was old lady long too, but it didn't hide my skinny legs, which had been greased with blue steel Vaseline and powdered with Arkansas red clay. I was so sure everyone in church was staring at my skinny legs. Wouldn't they be surprised when one day I woke out of my black ugly dream and my real hair, which was long and blonde, would take the place of the kinky mask that Mama wouldn't let me straighten? My blue eyes were going to hypnotize him after all the things they had said about her daddy must be a Chinaman. You know, I thought they meant made out of China, like a cup, but they really meant because my eyes are so small and squinty. Then they would realize why I had never picked up a southern accent or spoke the common slang, and why I had to be forced to eat pig's tails and snouts because I was really white. And because a cruel fairy stepmother who was understandably jealous of my beauty had turned me into a too big Negro girl with nappy black hair, broad feet, and a space between her teeth that could hold a number 2 pencil. If growing up is painful for a southern black girl, being aware of her displacement is the rust on the razor that threatens the throat. It is an unnecessary insult. When I was 3 and Bailey 4, we had arrived in Stamps, Arkansas to live with our grandmother. During these years in Stamps, I met and fell in love with William Shakespeare. He was my first white love. I pacified myself about his whiteness by saying that, after all, he had been dead for so long it couldn't matter to anyone anymore. Bailey and I had decided to memorize a scene from The Merchant of Venice. But then we realized Mama would question us about the author. We'd have to tell her that Shakespeare was white, and it wouldn't matter to her whether he was dead or not. In Stamps, the segregation was so complete, most black children didn't really, absolutely know what whites looked like. Other than that, they were different, to be dreaded. And in that dread was included the hostility of the poor against the rich, the powerless against the powerful, the worker against the worked for, and the ragged against the well-dressed. I know it's silly, but I remember never believing that whites were actually real. I couldn't think of them as people. Many women who worked in their kitchens traded at our store. They would often carry their finished laundry back to town and set a big basket down on our front porch just to pull a singular piece from the starch collection to show either how graceful was their ironing hand or how rich and opulent was the property of their employers. Looking at the items that weren't on display, I learned that white men wore shorts, just as Uncle Willie had, and that white women's breasts weren't built into their dresses, as some people said, because I saw the brassieres in the baskets. People were Mrs. Legrand, Mrs. Hendricks' Mama, Reverend Sneed, Lily B., Louise, and Rex. White folks couldn't be people because their skin was too, well, it was too white and see-through-y. And they didn't even look like people or walk like people. They walked like horses on their heels. People were those who lived on my side of town. I didn't like all of them, or in fact any of them, very much, but they were people. These others, these strange, pale creatures that lived in their alien unlife, couldn't be considered folks. They were white folks. Stance, Arkansas was Chitlin Switch, Georgia, Pangham, Alabama, Dump the Sunset on here, nigga, Mississippi, or any other name, just as descriptive. People in Stamps used to say that the white folks were so prejudiced, a Negro couldn't buy vanilla ice cream. He just had to be satisfied with chocolate. A light shade had been pulled down between the black community and all things white, but one could see through it enough to develop a sort of fear, admiration, contempt for the white things. White folks' cars and white glistening houses and their children and their women. But above all, their wealth that allowed them to waste was almost enviable. They had enough clothes that they were able to give perfectly good dresses, worn just under the arms, to the sewing classes at our school for the larger girls to practice on. Now, while there was always generosity in the Negro neighborhood, it was indulged on pain of sacrifice. Whatever was given by black people to other blacks was needed most probably as desperately by the donor as by the receiver, a fact which made the giving or receiving a very rich exchange. I couldn't understand whites and where they got the right to spend money so lavishly. Of course, I knew God was white, but no one could have made me believe that he was prejudiced. My grandmother had more money than all the poor white trash. We owned land and houses, but each day, Bailey and I were cautioned. Waste not, what not. Recently, a white woman from Texas who would quickly describe herself as liberal asked me about my hometown. When I told her that in Stamps, my grandmother had only Negro general merchandise store since the turn of the century, she exclaimed, "Why, you a debutante." Ridiculous and even ludicrous. But while Negro girls in small southern towns, whether poverty-stricken or just munching along on a few of life's necessities, received as extensive and irrelevant preparations for adulthood as rich white girls showed in magazines. Admittedly, the training was not the same. While white girls learned to waltz and sit gracefully with the teacup bounced on their knees, we were lagging behind, learning the mid-Victorian values with very, very little money to indulge them. I was in the 8th grade when I learned that Negroes were farmers and maids, handymen and washerwomen, and anything higher that we aspired to was farcical and presumptuous. Then, I wish that Gabriel Prosser and Nat Turner had killed all white folks in their beds, and that Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated before the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, that Harriet Tubman had been killed by that blow to her head, and that Christopher Columbus had drowned in the Santa Maria. It was awful to be Negro and have no control over my life. It was brutal to be young and already trained to sit quietly and listen to charges brought against my color with no chance of defense. We should all be dead. I thought I'd like to see all of us dead, one on top of the other, a pyramid of flesh with the white folks on the bottom as the broad base. Next, the Indians with their silly tomahawks and teepees and treaties and wigwams. The Negroes with their mops and recipes and spirituals and contacts just sticking out of their mouths. The Dutch children should stumble over their wooden shoes and break their necks. The French choke to death on Louisiana perches while silkworms ate all the Chinese with their stupid pigtails. As a species, we were an abomination. All of us.